Yay, right.
Yes,
Yay, let's
claps
clap
for
for
us.
Let's say a round for
Let's
us.
clap
Round
for
of applause. Thank
ourselves.
you.
We love it.
For the ABCs of drag, applause.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I guess that's our cue. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alt Drag panel, where we're talking all things alternative drag. Drag kings, drag things, creatures, monsters, everything in between. My name is El Experimento. My pronouns are he, they. I'm a drag king, thing, whatever may have you, and I have black faux hawk hair and a blue sparkly suit today. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, my name is Coyote Ugly. I'm also a drag king based in Toronto, right here. In drag, my pronouns are he, it. I am wearing a blue suit and a red streak in my blonde hair for all of you listening at home.
Hi, my name is Max Malada in drag. My name is Mez out of drag. They, them out of drag, he, him in drag. I am wearing all black clothing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Q Queer, based in Rochester, New York, USA. My pronouns are he, they, in and out of drag, and I am currently wearing glasses and a greenish hoodie and black sweatpants.
Yes, more applause, more applause.
More applause. Thank you.
Alternative or not, drag performers are like Tinkerbell. Love that stuff. Well, I'm very excited to kick off this panel discussion. We've each got a little sort of thing that we're focusing on, but it's going to be very dialogue centered. So people are going to maybe ask questions or comment during, and we're just going to have a lovely little discussion.
We sorry to interrupt, but I guess we encourage you to engage with us as well. If anyone has questions or wants to interrupt a thought, I'd like to encourage that kind of casual conversation space. So yeah, we don't bite.
Yes.
Much, yeah.
Unless you tip a 50. I'm very excited. I'm kicking off this talk about alt drag with a little bit of history. We are all king things, and it's sort of really interesting to see where where it started in history, how we got the term drag king. And how that sort of connects to who we are as performers today in the alternative and the drag scene. So I feel like there's a lot, people often think of drag history as starting with Shakespeare, right? We get the term drag because back then the men who were dressing up to play the women's roles, they were putting on their drags, which meant that, of course, the skirts that were going to drag behind them. But where do we get kings? You might be asking yourself. That actually starts much further back in history with basically the Tang Dynasty. Now, of course, it started way before this, but this is the first recorded sort of instance of male impersonation. Also, I'd like to apologize. I'm going to be looking a little bit at my notes just to make sure I'm getting dates and names correct, because I would like to be as informative as possible. But the Tang Dynasty was around 618 and 907 BCE. And we found these records of male impersonation through the Chinese opera, which was flourishing at this time. The women playing these roles were often playing stock characters. So you had Lao Shang, Jiao Shang, and Wu Shang, meaning old man, young man, and warrior. Yes, the three genders, exactly.
Warrior?
Yeah. Who are you today? So this continued on well into the Yuan dynasty, which started around 1279 AD. This was a really prolific era for these female performers in Chinese opera. and they often portrayed male military figures, which meant that they got to learn and then demonstrate martial arts mastery and acrobatics. For example, going to give you some names of early male impersonators at these times. We have the actress Tian Zizhu. She was an expert in Lulin, or valiant brigand roles, so this sort of the warrior role, that gender. Also, we have Ping Yangnu, and she was famous because she had a very interesting style. She was blind in one eye, which made her sort of different looking, and so she would often draw really elaborate tattoos on her body in order to vividly portray Lulin and gangster roles.
Alt drag.
Yeah, alt drag. We're already seeing it. So also, what this Chinese opera period was famous for was a really famous classic called The Butterfly Lovers. This was a Chinese opera that was done with a woman playing the male role, as well as the female character in the play having to, at one point, disguise herself as a man. This is often referred to as the Chinese Romeo and Juliet, or if we're going on actual timelines, Romeo and Juliet is England's Butterfly Lovers, essentially. Speaking of, the European world started to catch up much later. And again, we're seeing the starts of drag kinging in the theater. These were often called breeches or trouser roles, known as a male dramatic role, often that of a youth, written for or customarily performed by a woman. This was really big at the time because it's interesting. Cross-dressing was not okay. However, breeches, trouser roles, male impersonation in the theater was sort of the acceptable outlet for that.
May I make a note?
Yeah.
I am a classically trained opera singer, and I have sung a bunch of breeches roles myself in terms of the songs, the most famous being like in Mozart, classical opera, like that sort of realm. But before women were allowed to play breeches roles, before that even started, there were castrati, which were young boys who were castrated so their voices wouldn't drop and they would have high voices forever. This practice died out because, you know what, that's kind of inhumane right there, chopping off your balls. And so they decided to, okay, let's just have women with who have higher voices do those roles.
Yeah. It's very interesting the way that, like, it's acceptable through art, but of course the art attracts people who then want to present that way, and sort of it becomes the outlet. Also, in the theater world, sort of in France, women were taking on male ballet roles in something called en travesti, which is actually, we get the word travesty from that. You know, we call things today like, oh, that was a travesty. But that actually does come from just meaning cross-dressing. A little bit of linguistic history for you. Moving way on into like the 1800s, we see drag start to hit America, mainly with Annie Hindle. She was prolific around 1864 to 1904, and she started on like vaudeville and variety stages. She actually came from England and then moved to the US. And she was considered, along with another male impersonator at the time, Ella Wesner, one of the most successful acts in American variety. She sort of set the standard for other male impersonators to come. And mainly, again, we have a lot of like this coming from women who preferred or wanted to, or had the ability to sing in low alto voices or tenor or even baritone voices. She sort of like would put her own spin on these though. And it's sort of, what I think is interesting is where we start to see modern drag is that she wouldn't just sing these male roles, she would start to ad-lib and riff and like make body jokes with the audience and sort of like creating her own character through which the perspective of these songs showed. The sort of, we still had the idea of like stock characters coming here with like male impersonation. And so the type of character that she performed was known as something called the swell, which I think is sort of like swelling your chest. You're a big deal.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, exactly, Johnny Bravo. But the swell here is defined as a male character that was based on an upper crust kind of man who could indulge in a range of leisure activities. This is interesting because in like her like vaudeville and like variety shows, it was mainly performed to a working class audience. So a lot of her act was actually about taking the piss out of sort of richer upper crust men and allowing the audience to sort of laugh at that idea. And often so that the audience could feel it was sort of superior in their manhood, which I think is interesting that they're getting it, you know, from like a woman putting on drag. Yeah. Any questions so far from y'all, or something interesting? I'm gonna take a very quick sip of my
water.
bubbly.
It makes me think of I just about our history as performers, and I'm just I guess curious and want to throw into the room. And I see some performers out in the audience as well. What was your inspiration, I guess, for your drag? And I know we're considered alt drag, and that I guess is maybe because alt drag is anything but mainstream drag, or maybe drag queens, femme drag, Canada's drag race. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm just curious about. So we're in the alternative umbrella world, whatever. So what was our inspiration? What was your inspiration into your drag persona? And I don't know. I'm just hearing about this history, and I know you, Coyote, very well. I know you have a theater background, and I'm just I'm curious to see what everybody where did you guys begin? What's your what pulled you to your alt drag? What alternative art and inspiration have you pulled from?
Totally. I think for me, obviously like a huge one of like the biggest sort of like Toronto, and I think a huge inspiration for so many drag kings right now in Canada, and now like even in America, is of course Kramanikuchi. You should follow him if you don't. He's been a really fantastic like sort of like not just a fantastic drag king, but really important like community organizer. He does a lot of like uplifting newer kings, and he often does perform in like sort of alternative style. I think like that was sort of what inspired me to go on. In terms of like theater, definitely I think with a lot of these people from history, I was really drawn to male roles, and also just sort of getting to play roles that were a bit clowny. So I think clown is like, and I know probably for another one of us, clown is like a really big part of our drag, and also like with these sort of coming into the idea of masculinity through a stock character and then subverting it somehow. So yeah, definitely like I'm not an upper crust dandy, but I am a crusty dandy. I'd say. Like very like effeminate, trying to be masculine, perhaps failing, perhaps just trying to sell you a car or two. I think, and in terms of, he isn't a drag king, but like a sort of masculine, like pop idol that I really sort of emulated was Tom Waits, if anyone's familiar with that, and just sort of the idea of a woo for the Waits. Of course, maybe more known as well like David Bowie, and kind of the idea of not being feminine but being effeminate in my masculinity. But yeah.
Yeah, similarly, I definitely have musical have brought me to my character. And it wasn't until I started seeing alternative drag. I was on a journey of like accepting my queerness, and when I started seeing alternative drag performers, that's when I that's when it really resonated that, hey, I can do that too. Yeah, and when I have my piece, I'll talk a little bit more about alternative music and stuff. But yeah, that's what really resonated for me and allowed me to start creating my character and saying that there's actually a world I can fit into.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you all a story. So Q Queer is an extension of me. I am Q. That is my name out of drag. And I started drag at the but the tender age of 13 years of age. I am currently 22. Put that into perspective. I've been doing it that whole time. And my drag grew up in a bubble. I couldn't go out to bars. I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have a social media presence until I was like 18. I wasn't allowed on the internet except for like the few times I got to watch Untucked when it was still on YouTube, mind you. And that was the only stuff. And also the Try Guys. The Try Guys made me do drag for the first time. That one video, the Try Guys try drag. That is, I'm like, I want to do that. And yet I did queen drag because that is as one does. Right. When you start drag, you do queen drag for the first time. I didn't know that a drag king existed until until I watched the Try Guys Try King Drag, the sequel.
Ooh.
Which we had the wives doing drag kinging, and I'm like, and unfortunately, that didn't pique my interest because it presented masculinity to me as something that was very flat and kind of boring. Needless to say, it seemed not interesting to me. I'm like, I don't want to put on facial hair. I just rather do my own thing, and so I did queen drag for years and years, and then. It wasn't until I did my first pageant that I decided, when was that pageant? That pageant was 2023 until I decided I was doing king and queen drag interchangeably under the same name. Until I decided, I think I'm just going to go veer right, go into masculinity. And I'm like, so it's my queen sort of upbringing. I still love cat suits and rhinestones and all things fabulous. But I also have that masculine edge to me in my contour and my mustache and my eyebrows that makes me a king in my own right. And I decided to come upon the phrase femme king with my other fellow femme kings in Rochester, where I am from. And my drag dads, Chintz McMahon and Salvador Extraño, they are my biggest inspirations to me, and they helped shape my drag to the way it was because they themselves are self-coined femme kings. So.
Love that.
Yeah, I guess on that femme king train. I guess I get a little. I will say I get a little imposter syndrome-y and a little embarrassed talking about, I don't know, alt drag or drag period. I feel like I'm still figuring that out. Inspirations for drag. Well, I've been performing all my life, like ever since I could move or talk. I feel the second I could hold a tune or put a shoe on, I was putting on a show in the living room. My mom is watching this right now in her living room. Hi, Mom. And I guess my inspirations were a lot in music and a lot in kind of golden age jazz and style and the cabaret style and Fosse, and there's just something so queer about it, right? And I think of Chicago, and I think of cabaret, and I think of Rocky Horror, and They're all like cult classics. Absolutely, we've been there. And I just think my fixation on that, all that kind of style growing up, and wanting to be Velma, but also not really, and just kind of misplacing my interest. And I'm just like, something about this is gay as fuck, but I don't know what the word is yet, something about this is so interesting to me, and it's like this darkness, this sensuality, this our art, and this rawness to it, this cabaret style of it's a singer in a room a room at a bar or something, and no one's paying attention to you, and they're pouring their heart out, and they put on this huge like clown paint for you, and they're doing all this beautiful choreography. There's just something so tender and gorgeous about that, and I love that I'll perform for a room of one person or a room of a million. Like I think that's what really drew me, was this idea of privacy in public, and this like the performance being the mask, where you can completely express yourself. And I feel like I've been jumping around all my life in very different avenues, trying to find my thing of where all of that fits. And I don't know, I tried dance, my mom's gonna laugh. I tried dance, I tried gymnastics, I tried soccer, like, I'm like, where is it? Where's the thing? Where is it? Where is it? And I feel like the pandemic happened, the first lockdown happened, which kind of, I feel like, spiraled my brain. It broke my brain in half. Coming to queerness, coming to transness. I moved to the city. Oh my God, I'm giving you my life story right now. It's relevant, I promise. It is. That's why I'm here. And I moved to the city, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was just, I walk out my door and there's all these gay people. And like, they're just not like, and I'm like looking at you. Like, I can hold your hand if I want to, but I'm not trying to be creepy like that. And I was very new and trying to discover community, discover myself. And so I just kept going to drag shows, or like any event that was going on at Glad Day, anything that was no cover, everything that was free. I would just like walk into Cruise and Tangos in the middle of the night because I was bored, but just needing to be in it. And I think that was just like, I think I had the realization that I could, that I didn't have to pick a thing, and I could just throw them all together and just like make a weird this. Choose your own character truly, and live that. And I've had a lot of gigs this week, and I'm very lucky for that. And I've been asked a lot recently about like, oh, what songs do you do? Like, what genre, what style? I'm like, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. Like, I think that's alt drag to me. And like, no, it's not necessarily for me like that, just the heavy metal or just like the all black. I think it's all that, but and then everything in between for me. And I think that's what excites me the most about alt drag and performance. And I throw in my golden age jazz songs into my act sometimes. I throw in some really stupid choreography. I throw in some clowning, and I think that's what alt drag is just like this. You make it yourself, and. That's my end of thought.
I really like DIY like interpretation of gender and gender performance, which is really cool. And also just speaking to like the idea of like going out in a mask and like hidden identity. Another like really wonderful thing that I love is like going out in the mask and then also getting to meet other people, and you're sort of all on this sort of agreeance of like, this is where we're meeting each other as, and we're meeting each other as these two characters and interacting as that. And there's just like, yeah, an immediate sort of like agreement between everyone. And it's so wonderful.
So we were throwing around the word alt a lot, but what does alt really mean? I think there was a drag clown, Yuri Thrall on Instagram posed a question, what does alt really mean? And they had some very interesting responses on what that means. So what does it mean to you personally as performers?
Well, I went to an alternative school.
Oh my God, I wasn't your parents.
Yeah, from Catholic school to alternative school. Wild. It was like the Wizard of Oz. Anyway, I guess now that I made that joke, I should start. For me, it really is like alternative is like the idea of just sort of going against the grain of what's expected. As sort of like a subversion of whatever that is, whether it be like alt music, like alternative theater, alternative drag. It's sort of, yeah, it's your own sort of, like I said before, like a DIY idea of gender and gender performance.
It's very good.
The breaking an idea of something is what alt drag is. Breaking your idea, your expectation, breaking the hopeful ending that you were wishing to have, and then giving you something so much better. I think that's what alt drag is.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of it comes from alternative music and considering myself a part of the goth subculture and um, basically this idea that like the mainstream is celebrating a lot of like happiness and prettiness, and in the goth subculture we do a lot of recognizing and celebrating sadness and anger, and just finding that that's the alternative, and that's what we're doing, and it's just as valid.
Totally.
To me, an alternative is all of that, but also it's a performance form that makes you think. Because we can windmill, ha, cha, cha, donkey kick all day. We can do that. Nothing's wrong with that. We can do that all day if we want. But then you need that one performer to come in and do something that blows your mind. And that's what I hope to do with my drag. Because I did Eusexual last night. I did The Chain. Both of those performances, I really wanted to celebrate my type of drag. Eusexual especially is about like making you think a little bit about the lyrics, the meaning. It doesn't have to be a slow song that you have to do to make it alternative. Like there's so like I mean ballads are great, but you can make people think. The art is making people think about your performance with any type of song.
I also
ahead.
have a couple of definitions, or not
yeah.
definitions, but some quotes from alternative drag performers, from a website, mega1mega.com. So Lily Gaia says, "We know that drag can be anything, but for me, alternative drag is self-expression on how we accept our queerness that focuses not just on beauty, glam, and colors. It embraces all the flaws and all the dark side of the reality of living as a queer person. It showcases all the possibilities of what LGBTQIA plus people can be." I really like that, recognizing that there is a darkness and a difficulty in inherent in being queer.
It's not easy doing all this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big part of like why I wanted to make my name a term that just means fucking ugly.
Margarita says, "It is disgusting, and that's why it's interesting. It's disgusting in a way that everyone will like it. Everyone will love it. Everyone will be craving for more. Alt is art in the highest form. It requires creativity to the highest level."
Like Divine and John Waters' art
Of
is
course.
filth.
Yes.
It is disgusting, but you can't look away.
Yes. And just like being able to revel in it.
Yeah.
Filth are my politics. Filth is my life. Take whatever you like.
What I think is interesting looking at it historically is that the history of drag kinging is like a history of breaking norms and stereotypes. For example, I just want to quickly shout out a few more names. In starting around 1889, we had the first recorded American indigenous drag king known as Gowango Mohawk. She basically decided to take control of her career because at the time what was really popular was Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show, which was, of course, a variety show that filled people's ideas with what white people thought Native Americans were like. And so she actually wrote and starred in her own theatrical productions, and she chose to play leading male roles. And sorry, but like because of this, she was able to expressly like portray American Indians in a favorable way, which then later on spurred her to become an activist for Indigenous rights. Also going on, we have, sorry, whew, dry mouth. But we have, starting in sort of like the Harlem Renaissance, figures like Florence Hines. Yes, some Florence fans. Really important. She began in like music halls because of her, she was a piano prodigy. Some people say that like she dressed as a man to get these jobs. Other people say that like she just got it because she was that good and people knew what was going on. But similar to Gowango Mohawk, she was really able to change the image of the black man in America, because there's, before this, obviously, minstrel shows. But she came in and she played the role of a dandy, and sort of showed this very refined image of the black man wearing like top hat, three-piece suit, being very mannered, and sort of being able to show that like black people can also be a part of like the modern cosmopolitan, as it was called back then. Yeah.
If I could name a couple icons also,
Oh yes, please.
I would mention a lot of alternative rock stars, and women in rock have always been like really pushing the envelope and
Yeah.
being unapologetic about deserving their space. It starts with Lita Ford. Then there's also like the Riot Girl movement,
Yes.
of course, and yeah, and oh, the name is escaping me.
It's really cool, like in terms of like rock, goth, even like metal, like the amount of just drag that's there, like
Yes.
just and sort of like
For
yeah,
for
even
me,
for
all
both like yeah.
yeah, for me, alternative music has always been about um, just being theatrical and expressive, and that means like makeup that's similar no matter what gender you consider yourself. You see that in goth subcultures and in hair metal. People were wearing the same kind of makeup because like it's about that expression of the energy of it, regardless of the gender of it. And I feel like that's really cool.
Yeah. Another name that's really important when we're talking about drag kings is, of course, Stormé de la Vey. Yeah, incredible performer. Again, a really proficient pianist, performing in a lot of speakeasies at the time. She was also part of what was called the Jewel Box Review, where she was in drag as the MC, hosting a sort of almost huge chorus line of men in women presenting drag. And
Love token drag kings.
yes, yeah, and sort of the subversion was they'd say like, all right, guess which one of these beautiful women is actually a guy, and then it would be revealed at the end that it was actually the MC. Sorry, it was actually a woman, and then it would be revealed that it was in fact the MC. She is, of course, so important as well, not just like in drag, but because of her efforts during these Stonewall riots, often considered to be the start of it because of her struggle with a police officer, creating a larger fight today. Sorry, not today, at that time. So what's been really interesting to me is how, like, not only do a lot of these people break gender roles through drag kinging, but they seem to be at the forefront of really important movements in history for civil rights issues, breaking barriers in terms of race, class, sexuality, as well as gender. Yeah, I would really love to talk a little bit more about how we get modern drag king. The term drag king was penned first in 1972 as part of the gay lexicon. I'm just going to, again, look up, not look up, present my notes.
The name
but
of the book.
Yes, the name of the book. Yes, The Queen's Vernacular, a Gay Lexicon by Bruce Rogers. Before this, it was pretty mostly called Male Impersonation, because that was considered more refined. And it was also still only okay, really, in the theaters. But I'd love to open up and talk more about modern drag kings today who have been also really important. I know we talked a little bit about inspiration, but I was thinking also just shouting out faves. I'd like to start by talking about drag king Flair, who is really important not just for his work in drag kinging and also sort of starting his career with like many flamboyant gay dandy characters, but also he taught a lot of the next generation of drag kings and has also gone on to be a really important historian for this. So definitely check him out if you're at all interested more in history. But yeah.
Was he running that history lesson a couple weeks ago?
That was in
Yes.
there. Oh,
That
yeah,
was-
Oh, no,
okay.
I
thought
believe-
there were
Was
two.
that a different king?
There's a few.
Moby Dick.
That was the
yes.
Moby Dick one that I'm thinking of.
Him
Okay,
and Moby
awesome.
Dick are like huge, like for
And,
the history.
and Flair has that video on YouTube,
Okay,
right?
sweet.
There's a drag king history video on YouTube. I think if you search it up, drag king history, I think drag king Flair or something like that, it should come up. Or if you look up drag king Flair on Instagram. But I strongly recommend it. It said it covered a lot of what Coyote brought up, but also so many other little tidbits and just the archival of all of this, like I feel like we talk about this and it's such like a little membrane, and it's really important to have people out there like King Flair who document a lot of our work and a lot of our history and our stories. So more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he runs a really good Instagram account also.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna take this in a different direction. What grinds my gears as a drag
Yeah.
king is that there are historically been so many pageants for drag queens. There is Miss Continental, Miss Gay USA, Miss Gay US of A. There is for trans women drag queens. There's everything for queens, and yet kings don't really get the same thing. I know there's Mr. Gay US of A, MI, male impersonator, but there isn't a lot. The Mr. Gay, it traditionally goes for gay men. And I don't feel like there's a lot of space in the pageant world for us. Is it because we're not seen as refined? I know there's a stereotype that kings aren't as polished as queens. What are your thoughts?
I think
I'm pretty sparkly.
Sorry. That's right, sorry.
And also, some of the queens saying that are showing up in like a shine bodysuit. So like, I don't know. Nothing wrong with it. I think pedestrian drag should be just as valid, but like, yeah, support bad drag.
Oh my goodness. And also it ties into the not booking kings thing. I know we've gone over this so many times in social medias, that people we get really mad when people don't book us when like
I feel
there's
like we've been having this argument for years.
years and years and years. It's tiring at this point. Just book kings. If there's a cast full of queens, there should be at least one king. Even not even one, 2, 3, please. I think Cream and Akuchi now is like, okay, guys, fuck you. If I'm the only king on the cast, I'm doing queen drag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's outwardly refusing to be booked as a king if he's the token king, which is really cool.
Which, is a lot of the work. So this is a lot of the work that falls on all performers, all kings and things. It's a lot of this. So Cream and Akuchi has to take is choosing to take a step back from doing king drag because there's no king bookings or proper king bookings in the city.
Yes.
If there are booked kings, it's maybe one king per show, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And if there's more than that, it's run by an alternative performer. And a lot of this work falls on us, and to create to keep the movement flowing, to keep the conversations going. I guess that kind of poses one of these questions. It's just how do you think I guess the political and social climates have altered or affected your drag and have altered your access to performance, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that. I guess it's a big one.
I personally, I feel like I've always wanted to. I've only ever felt comfortable in alternative spaces and going against the grain, so I feel like the whole politics of it has never necessarily like directly affected me because I've always been in a position of wanting to go against that grain. But also that's my unique experience.
I mean, I always get, not always, but a good portion of the time I get misgendered in drag. People think I'm a queen, which is not the case. And
Not with that mustache.
oh, no. But like they see the mustache and they're like, oh, that's a she, totally. Look at the eye makeup, totally. Forget that they're wearing a suit, but like, whatever.
At this past Empire's Ball, our entire king house was like brought to the stage with an "Okay, ladies."
No,
We're like,
absolutely not.
And keep in mind, they're literally called frat house.
yeah, yeah. For me, yeah, it's definitely. I kind of always felt alternative, but did begin through like a lot of open stages in the village, and sort of like trying to create a space for kings there. Not just because like, yes, sometimes I do enjoy pop songs and I like to be like glamorous and have fun and like express that in a space with like other queer people. And I just, it was, at first, I really had to sort of almost take a sick delight in the fact that nobody wanted me there. And just being like, you know what,
True.
Woodies? For the next 3 minutes, you're gonna have to look at me and this weird song that you don't know all the words to. So is it even drag? And then sort of, luckily there's just been so many more kings and king spaces, but unfortunately like there's been so many more kings and then kings creating spaces, which is great, but it's basically more recently in the village completely narrowed down to the fact where there is like no bookings basically for drag kings, period. I think a lot of it is, it's always been kind of the history of queer women and trans people in gay spaces that are dominated by white cis gay men, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah.
And it like don't get me wrong, it is horrible that we're not really accepted in those spaces, but I also think it's a great opportunity for us to come together and help each other
Yeah.
out and create bookings, create spaces for ourselves and
Thrive
each
in
other.
places where we are not wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like queer and trans people are always barking up the wrong tree, and sometimes we just have to plant our own forest and say "fuck you" and have a party over here. And
Exactly.
and I think it's hard that a lot of that work falls on us. We're always constantly emerging artists, always constantly doing and the drag. We're the drag performer, and we're the producer, and we're the stage manager for the night, and we're.
It's so much work.
It's a lot of fucking work, and I also think that's what I don't know keeps the alt scene so alive. It's just that we are constantly feeding it, constantly keeping it alive and well, and trying to keep it relevant and take care of our community. I think that's something I've learned a lot about drag and alt drag specifically. Is there's community exists, but it doesn't welcome you everywhere, and I feel like alt drag and alt spaces. Give you that kind of grace to be a misfit, to be figuring it out, to be a work in progress, to say the wrong thing or try something new. And Max, I really admire all of you and all of your alt work. Like I think you are one of the most cool alternative kings out there. I envy the goth kid in you so much, and I would just love to hear more about your work and about what you do in the city. And I really admire you.
Thank you so much. It's definitely something that I very consciously try and do with my drag is just even if I'm not like the best dancer or XYZ skill, I consciously try and like make space for myself and for others like me, and just show people that like you can be like this. You can we can have the space for each other, and that's
Yeah.
Okay, so booking kings, fine and dandy. The community keeping itself alive, fine and dandy. But we really need some outside help here. We really need, and where does that start? We need a king on Drag Race. We need that. We need more kings in the media. It starts with visibility.
Yeah.
We need visibility in order for us to
ladder.
keep on. We need to climb that fucking ladder, man. We need RuPaul to finally listen and say, you know what, y'all are being loud enough. We need a king on here. We need either an all king season. Yes, we need story hours. We need more people to know what king. And that's the only way we're gonna be ahead. Is just keep being yourself. Keep being authentically us and keep being visible, and that's how we're gonna survive.
I feel like that's another thing about like people claiming that like kings aren't as polished, and a lot of the times like you have to consider the fact that like if like you're not getting regularly booked, you're not gonna have the money to buy the nicest outfits,
You're not
the
gonna have the
best
chances
makeup,
to
the wigs.
actually build up your skills.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. So yeah, just outside help definitely.
The King show at my local bar, Roar in Rochester. Love you, Roar. There used to be a King's show called The Lion Kings every Wednesday night, Wednesdays, and the pay was, get ready for this, $40 per person. And then that show is no more, unfortunately. And there's now a cub competition for upcoming kings and things. Very, very thoughtful. Love that. It's great, but unfortunately, the turnout isn't always that great. And it just keeps on the cyclical cycle of not booking kings, not having the spaces for us, not having to make our own spaces, and then nobody shows up to those spaces because nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, having to do, if we do produce, having to do pay what you can, or not split the tip bucket, and low paying ourselves
Or
constantly.
free, or doing it for free.
If you're producing a show, like, you might be in the hole, and that's a huge risk for a drag performer who like already isn't making a lot of money. But like, it's important.
Oh yeah. Any questions from the audience? Any comments? Yes, Callie.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, it's a journey. We apologize, but it's worth the wait.
Oh dang.
Wait,
Walk for us.
Walk
for us. Yes.
Going right here. Okay. I would really love for each of you to talk about one, not your most favorite, but one of your favorite performances you've done.
Oh.
Wow, that was so much.
A juicy question.
Question.
Suddenly forgetting every song.
No, I have never done drag in my life.
Can I like look at my Instagram
my
and see what
first
I've
day
done? Because I
outside.
don't know what I've done.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first? I have
Yes,
an idea.
if you have.
So my favorite performance I've ever done actually was on Halloween night this year, a couple days ago. I did a mix that I've been wanting to do forever. It's called my robot mix. It comes with visuals. I made a music video for it because it was for a show that got canceled. Womp womp. Yes, but fortunately, I was able to do it at an open stage. And it was a number where I was dressed in like a robot cat suit with one half of my head bald, like bald cap, silver bald cap, and the other half with this huge wig. And I had a fake blaster that I did myself and like glasses. And it was a story about a robot, the creation of Project Q, I guess, where it was creation. And then you realize that you're a robot and then you turn evil and then you take over the world with AI. Yeah. That's my favorite number. And then and there's a reboot in the middle where you flop on the floor and then da na 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 da 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 da. Yeah.
Awesome. I guess I'll go next. Because I did look at my phone and remember my performances.
I talked for long enough.
What do I do here?
So I think the performance that I really like that I've been doing, I've done it a few times. It's the song "Hold Me Like a Microphone" by Aerodrome, and
I saw him doing that. It was fantastic.
sounds like you guys have seen my number. Yeah, I really like that one because I made the outfit for it. It's very rhinestone. It's very rock star mesh. I have like a piano up the leg, and and there's a little gag near the end, and it's very different from who I usually am as Max, because usually I'm like in a nice little suit and tie moment, so that's a little more wild and fun and sexy rock star kind of moment. So I'm very proud of myself for that one.
I think I could do two. Just because Elle mentioned like inspirations from musicals like Chicago and Cabaret, and I feel like the MC in Cabaret is such a huge inspiration for like I'm sure like so many like drag kings.
What? Where?
Who are they? Yeah, so I had basically my own MC costume, and I did more of a clown paint, and I was missing an eye, and I sang Cabaret because I love that. And then also I do what I call a That Boy Needs Therapy mix, and it's like a mix of like Frontier Psychiatrist, St. James Infirmary Blues, and Psycho Killer, and it was just sort of about me. It was about sort of my frustrations with the lovely Ontario health, sort of just the health system in general right now.
Oh, it sucks here too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. At least mine's free. I'm
That's
so
another
sorry.
panel. That's another panel.
But yeah, I love being able to like sort of explore my own feelings and issues through drag, and I also like repainted on my laparoscopy scars and stuff, and yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
I always get so nervous when it's my turn. Why? I do this. Like, why am I? Yeah, I'll say two. I'll cheat. I'll say two as well. I guess one of my favorite acts to perform is probably one of the first acts I've ever fully developed, and it happened kind of accidentally. I remember overworking and agreeing to a gig, and then getting to the gig and being like, oh gosh, I didn't even practice. I barely listened to my song. I didn't choreograph this at all. I picked my outfit a half hour before the show. I was not serving myself at all. And I'm just backstage and just trying to figure it out. I have 15 minutes, and I'm walking back and forth, and I'm playing the song in my ear, and I'm just like, okay, what do I do? Like, what's the thing? What's the thing? Like, what am I doing? I think it was maybe my second or third paid gig, and I had a bandana in my bag, and I just made a choice. I always have a bandana on me, and I just pulled out this bandana, and I made it that prop the whole point of the act. I put it on. I did this big giant reveal. I did all this choreography with it. And it was like 5 minutes before I was going on, and I said, okay, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. And it's probably my favorite number that I've ever done and ever choreographed. I've never I choreographed some of my numbers, not all. But that one I spent like just that few minutes of hyper focusing and just like with a grounding item. I love a bag of random things. I love a Mary Poppins bag. And that just the bandana really grounded me, and I love that act. It's toured. It's gone international. It's been at a burlesque festival before. It's so silly, but I'm so proud of it, and it's something I go back to, and my body just remembers every single beat. And I think that's the best I guess drag advice is to know your music through and through, and know your lyric by lyric, and just letting that kind of carry you the way through. So. I'll leave it at that one, but yeah, that's a good one.
I would like to say also, in terms of going international, Elle, I think you might be going international again soon. If anyone here wants to catch that.
Yeah, let's plug ourselves a little bit. I think we're wrapping up, but I thank you so much for joining us today. Coyote mentioned that I'm one of a few alternative performers here in Toronto that are going to the Austin International Drag Festival. This December, yeah. So follow me on socials. Keep an eye on me, and then all the big gang that we're taking over there. And if there's, we take donations online. So if anyone's interested in our work and wanting to support our journey over there, we are paying our way. So every little bit counts, and even just being here and being together with all of you. So thank you so much. Any shows coming up? Anything you want to plug or talk about? Any achievements?
Oh man, I don't. I think I have like a gig way later in December. So I'm just gonna plug like. Oh yeah, I'll plug it. I just need to look at my calendar because I'm so on top of my life.
So I encourage you all to follow the Drag and Spirituality Instagram. That's where you can find all of us as well, and follow all of our @say. And I'm not going to spell them all out for all of you. But yeah, what's your December show?
Yeah, you can catch me here in Toronto at Drag Me to the Movies. I'm gonna be watching Labyrinth and just having a whole chuckle. Yeah, I love that. That's another one I love doing the Dance Magic Dance song, obviously. So I'm very excited because it's such a great movie. And if you'd like to follow me, I'm on Instagram at King Coyote Ugly. I couldn't just get Coyote Ugly for some reason. It's probably the movie. And also TikTok at King Coyote Ugly.
TikTok.
Yeah, I always got my hands in all different areas.
Yeah, you do.
I am working door this Tuesday at the fundraiser for the Austin International Drag Festival. So please check that out. Donate online or show up. And I'm currently running a weekly Boulay Brothers Dragula viewing party. Ooh. That's at Tammy's Wine Bar on Wednesdays. So check that out. And follow me on Instagram is what I use the most. Check out my stories and my story highlights where I post upcoming shows. And watch out because I have some more music that will be coming out soon.
All right. Well, as you know, I'm sort of international at this point. No, lie.
No.
This is my only international gig. You can follow me at QUEUE, queer, on Instagram. My upcoming gigs, I'm going to be at SUNY Polytech in Utica. That's going to be fun. And then I'm going to be in Buffalo on December 7th for a brunch, if you want to come to Buffalo for a brunch on a Sunday. But that's the biggest gig of all is getting top surgery in January.
Yes!
Thank you so much.
And that's on Trans Day of Visibility. Is that today or
No,
awareness?
I made a joke.
We're just visible today.
Okay, well, we're visibly trans, and that's our panel today. Thank you so much.
Yes. That was fierce and fun.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna read a really cool thing. Here, let me. I'll bless you later. Just like specific.
Let's give them another round of applause, please, everybody. Yeah. One of the best parts, I think, about alt drag, especially doing alt drag with each other, is that that's the piece of it. We are with each other. I think I'm connected with all four of these peeps because we're all somehow on a Discord server. and we all connect about like some of the nonsense that was talked about and all the joy and all the fun that we had. So really so delightful to have them here. So
Yeah, that
thank you.
Discord server is started by Cream and Akuchi. It's he has his Titans umbrella of drag kings and things. So yeah, any drag kings and things can get on that. Ask any of us for info.
Yeah.
And follow the Titans Instagram.
Titans Instagram also, yes.
Titans drag, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
great resource. You can also register yourself as a drag king on their site for the performer lexicon.
Yeah, they have a registry of tons of performers. Yeah. Can we get a cute little photo of all of us? Could we? Yeah, please.
Like we like each other or something. Yay! Like last night. This is your cue for a picture.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
The mug is a part of it. It adds to the look.
We are vain, so please tag us or send it to me.
Or both. All right, one more clap. Thank you guys so much.
That was great. I liked that.
Coyote, is this Where's your bubbly, my guy? Oh, it's empty. We'll put it on there. That's fine. So as we, sorry. No, you're okay.
Oh my god, nice.
As we are,
I remember making you over this sweater and shirt to say hi.
I'm loving the connection. I'm loving the joy. I'm loving it so much. I want to guide us through our next little spiritual moment before we move into our workshops. There will be one workshop up here, one workshop downstairs on the ground floor, the first floor, and they both will be live streamed separately. So if you're watching online, don't worry about that. But I'm going to be reading this moment from what's called the Black Trans Prayer Book. It's a really, really beautiful resource. And this is a temple hymn for sex workers written by Lady Dane Figueroa Adidi. So I invite you to ground yourself and hold yourself here. There's an introduction I will read before we get into it. I want to be clear on a few things first. Sex work is work. Sex workers were financially essential to many of the liberation movements that we all celebrate. Some say Jesus' movement was financed by women, whether they were disciples or not. Some of these women were probably sex workers. So it's safe to say that yes, even Jesus' movement was supported by sex workers too. Sacred sex work happened in ancient temples, while the ancestors drew a distinction between what they called the sacred sex worker and the profane sex worker. I believe that all consensual sex is sacred, and thus all sex work, which must be consensual to be labeled as such, is also sacred. Sex workers saved the West in the United States and were fundamental to several world economies. Sex workers are deserving of human dignity, of respect, of honor, and love. Sex workers are our siblings, our friends, and they are essential. If God is the God of all, then God too must be the God of sex workers. If one worships more than one God, if one worships old gods, then surely one must know of the gods who are protectors and sanctifiers of sex workers. Mary Magdalene was not a sex worker. That was a lie that a pope told because he wanted to both shame and control sex workers. She more than likely was a widow who helped finance Jesus' movement and became one of his favorite disciples. It's interesting that she's one of the only women who traveled with Jesus who was not signaled out by her relationship to a man. Mary Magdalene, however, is a patron saint of certain artists, of hairdressers, perfumers, herbalists, etc., and some say sex workers as well. Jezebel was also not a sex worker, although she may have been the first recorded case of what the young folks would call a ride or die chick. Lucy Anderson Hicks, Marsha P. Johnson, and Sylvia Rivera were all sex workers at one point in time in their lives, and without these three trans women, we would not have marriage equality nor many of the rights that some of us enjoy today. And so I repeat, sex work is work. Sex workers are deserving of human dignity, respect, honor, and love. And sex work, too, is sacred work. So who is this hymn for? This is a temple hymn for sex workers, for those who work the streets and those who lay in satin sheets, for those who do recorded work and those who work the pole, for those who are house spouses and those who are not, for those who believe in monogamy, for those who believe in polyamory. This is a temple hymn for sex workers, for the sacred sex worker and the profane sex worker, for the brothel beauties and the temple priest, for the sex worker who doesn't know what they do is sex work. This is a hymn for you, to recite, to resound, to remember. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that they keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. As the night turns upon the heel, dress your beings in the magnificence of sensuality. You are children of fertile waters, born when sky dripped possibility into the sea. Bathe your flesh in starlight. Hail the moon so she may light your way. Your prayers are moans, your psalms the touching of skin. Write them well so the music may bring you abundance. Crown your caress in splendor. Let that which is sacred always be sacred. Remember that you are sacred, and so is your time, and so is any bed upon which you lay. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that they keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. Let the altar be filled with light. Pour libations to the guardians of the room. Pour libations to the guardians of the crossroads. Pour libations to your ancestors. Bring honor to their name. Sweet waters in your cup. Who drinks it, make sure an offering is made to you true. Let your shrine be adorned adorations. Who partakes of their glitter, assure their offerings are made to you in truth. You have the dignity of legacy. You have the guidance of the eight-pointed star. It said you have the power to call impossible things into being. You must be ever astute and wise. Sacred you are, sacred you must be. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that they keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. Beat the drum, beloved. Beat the drum of pleasure. Beat the drum of sensuality. Beat the drum of love. Beat the drum of joy. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that they keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. When the night has danced away and dawn with rosy bronze cheeks ushers in sun, let sleep away the night. Dip thy body in the waters of rebirth. Sweeten thy skin with the parchments of perfect. Grab the oil from your alabaster box. Sing chants unto thine flesh. Embolden thy smile and let your dreams be sweet. Remember, you carry within you the legacy of temples and brothels and bordellos and bathhouses, of places where the imagining of love could, for even if only a moment, come to be. You must be ever astute. You must be ever wise. Sacred you are, sacred you be. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. Remember who you are, remember who you were, and remember who you are meant to be. Remember. Praise be to the patron saints of our trade. Praise be to the four directions that they keep us safe. Praise be to agency and autonomy. Praise, praise, praise. Now we will be moving into a time